Before we get into today's edition of Just the Truth, let me tell you about the latest special from Michael and Dale at MyPillow. The standard MyPillow, normally $49.98 for a limited time only, just $14.88 with promo code Joey. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio listener specials, and see all the specials. There's a limited quantity of just 10 at this special price. That's $14.88 with promo code Joey. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studio. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. Welcome in as we start a new week here. Thanks for the text and some of the emails I got on Friday. You had a question about evidently the updated podcast did not load on time. There was a quirk, and so you were getting Thursdays instead of Fridays. That was updated sometime over the weekend, so the new one is in there. If you missed it, go back and listen. You'll find it, but sorry for that. Sometimes I have no control over the maintenance issues with my host, and I'm told that tonight there's going to be another update, so hopefully tomorrow will be fine, but there could be another delay tomorrow, so just a heads up on that. But again, I did get your emails and your texts. I didn't respond to every single one of them. There were a lot of them, but I appreciate your concern on that. But I think we're back on track for sure. Southern California is still being consumed with the wildfires as the number of people affected grows along with the death toll. Fire officials yesterday said in an afternoon news conference that they'll be using cadaver dogs to find additional victims of the wildfire. We have the latest details for you. Also, California Governor Gavin Newsom has activated an additional 1,000 National Guard soldiers to assist in the response to the wildfires, as other states are sending help, and even Ukraine has offered to send some soldiers to help out in the recovery and in the search for survivors as well. We have all those details for you. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen, remember him? He is publicly urging President Joe Biden to grant him a presidential pardon, citing concerns about potential prosecution under President-elect Donald Trump. Cohen, of course, served 3 years in prison for various federal crimes. He claims that Biden has a moral obligation to protect critics of Donald Trump, just as he pardoned his son Hunter Biden earlier this year. A parody video of the conversation between Donald Trump and Barack Obama at former President Jimmy Carter's funeral has gone viral. Have you seen it? We have the video for you to decide. And the South Carolina General Assembly goes back into session this week, and there's a lot of work to do. The Palmetto Promise Institute has some key legislation they'll be monitoring. Dr. Orrin Smith, a senior fellow with Palmetto Promise, joins us today to discuss the top 4 areas they'll be focusing on this session.
I told you we'd be back.
And ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free.
It's Joey Hudson.
I wanted to name it the Joey Hudson bill, but, they don't allow you to put names on bills. But I wanted to call it the Joey Hudson bill because I know that one's been near and dear to you for a number of years.
That's how it's done. Let your voice be heard.
And the truth shall set you free.
Here's Joey Hudson.
Give you a quick update of what we know about the wildfires that continue in Southern California. California officials held a news conference yesterday briefly discussing their efforts to use cadaver dogs to find additional victims in the Los Angeles area wildfires. Los Angeles County Sheriff Robert Luna hinted that he expects to find more bodies, sadly. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office and the Los Angeles County Fire Department are using cadaver dogs doing grid searches, Sheriff Luna said. I don't expect good news from those. We'll keep people updated. And we have an update on the missing and those expected dead. We'll give you some of those in just a moment. First, California Governor Gavin Newsom has activated an additional 1,000 National Guard soldiers to assist. The additional soldiers bring the total number of troops to about 2,500. They're fighting fires, ensuring that the public safety of communities is maintained as best they can. Newsom said that in a statement, the men and women of the California National Guard have been on the ground since day one, not only fighting fires, but also assisting with public safety in communities devastated by these fires. We thank them for their efforts to keep our community safe. Also, Newsom issued an executive order yesterday removing some regulatory hurdles and red tape in an effort to help people impacted by the wildfires to rebuild their homes and their businesses faster. Can you imagine having to rebuild a home or a business under current California law? This is going to be a story to follow. Under the terms of the order, Governor Newsom suspended some permit and review requirements under the California Environmental Quality Act and the California Coastal Act. It also directs state agencies to identify additional permitting requirements, including provisions of the building code that can safely be suspended or streamlined to accelerate rebuilding and make it more affordable, as well as extends protections against price gouging on building materials, construction, and storage services in Los Angeles County through January the 7th of next year, 2026. Newsom said in the statement, when the fires are extinguished, victims who have lost their homes and businesses must be able to rebuild quickly and without roadblocks. The executive order I signed today will help cut permitting delays, he said, and an important first step in allowing our communities to recover faster and stronger. Gavin Newsom also said, I've ordered our state agencies to identify additional ways to streamline the rebuilding and recovery process. The Los Angeles Area Chamber of Commerce applauded the move, which it said would play a critical role in accelerating the recovery and rebuilding efforts across Los Angeles County. So see, they know it's too restrictive. They know that some of these environmental guidelines and regulations that they have put in place over the past few years shouldn't be there. It's taken a wildfire and devastation to make them finally admit that and to suspend them. They should just suspend them indefinitely. Just take them off the books. The White House said in a social media post yesterday that over 26,000 Californians have registered for assistance from the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA. The post said, as of this afternoon, more than 26,000 people have registered for FEMA assistance made available by President of the United States major disaster declarations for California. If you've been affected by the wildfires in Southern California, you can apply for federal assistance at www.disasterassistance.gov. That's disasterassistance.gov. As California officials begin to look at what started the fires, they're currently probing whether one of the ongoing Southern California wildfires was caused by down Southern California Edison equipment. This is the electric company, or one of the electric companies that provide service in that Southern California area. SCE reported a fall in power line on Tuesday night at 10:11 p.m., roughly 1 minute after the Hearst fire started in Sylmar, according to Fox Weather. SCE does not currently know if the damage occurred before or after the Hearst fire started. On Friday, the company submitted a report that authorizes a government entity to investigate whether the infrastructure owned or operated by the utility caused a wildfire. Reports on the number of missing and those who tragically lost their lives are now starting to come in. We did learn over the weekend that former child actor Rory Callum Sykes died Wednesday, January the 8th, a victim of the Palisades fire, according to his mother, Shelley Sykes. He was 32 years old. This is a sad story if you haven't followed it. Rory was an Australian actor. He was born blind with cerebral palsy. He starred on the British television show Kitty Capers. In addition to his work in front of the camera, Rory also served as a motivational speaker and helped form the Happy charity organization with his mom. Sykes attempted to evacuate their Malibu home when the Palisades fire ignited, only to have difficulty retrieving emergency services due to limited resources, including power. His mom was not able to lift him and literally had to leave him there to go for help. And, of course, when they returned, they weren't able to help him. Now, that would have to be horrible to lose your son and to know that you left him to try to get help, and that's when he succumbed to smoke inhalation, we're told. The death toll from this still raging fire, and you need to understand that the fire's still there. Depending on which one you're looking at, and there's multiple ones, they're still only 10, 11, 15% contained. So there's going to be a lot more damage yet to come. So far, confirmed, 24 people have died. At least 16 are still missing that we know of. This is according to the Los Angeles County Medical Examiner's report as of late afternoon yesterday on Sunday. The majority of the victims, 16, were killed in the Eaton fire, while 8 were killed by the Palisades fire, the two largest of the fires that's literally devouring that county. With the new death toll, the Eaton fire is now the 5th deadliest wildfire in California's history. Only 2 of the victims, 84-year-old Charles Mortimer and 66-year-old Victor Shaw, have been identified in the update. Mortimer died in the hospital of smoke inhalation and thermal injuries, and Shaw died of the same cause outside his Altadena home, according to the medical examiner. Shaw's burned remains were found with a garden hose still in his hands, as family members said he stayed behind to try to save his home of 55 years. Wow. Just leave it there. Let it go. It's only a home. Many of the victims lived just blocks apart from one another in the same neighborhood of Altadena, which is historically a black and working-class neighborhood. According to the medical examiner, 16 of the victims were killed in the Altadena, 4 in Malibu, 1 in Pacific Palisades, 1 in Palisades, 1 in Topanga, and 1 in a hospital death without a specified origin of the location of the fire. With many people still missing, sadly, the death toll is going to grow. A dozen of those reported missing are from the Eaton fire zone. The other 4 are from the Palisades. No children, fortunately, are among the missing yet. Los Angeles County Fire Chief Anthony Marone shared the additional numbers. Authorities expected the number of missing will continue to rise as families try to contact one another and try to get back into their homes. About 150,000 people in Los Angeles County remained under evacuation as of late afternoon yesterday. Up next, former Trump attorney Michael Cohen is asking Joe Biden for a pardon. We have all the details for you. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. There's a lot of talk about making America great again, and it begins with making America healthy again. Dr. Ashley Lucas and her team at PhD Weight Loss are at the forefront to educate and guide you to be your best self. The millions being spent in propping up Big Pharma are astounding, only to create long-term dependency and harmful side effects. Let's take a natural approach that isn't connected to a pharmaceutical company's bottom line. The coaches at PhD Weight Loss will show you how. The entire program is centered around science and nutrition, a proven roadmap that has helped over 8,000 clients lose over 331,000 pounds. You'll learn what to eat and when, how to quiet cravings, and finally get rid of that belly fat. Plus, you'll never take a medication. How many pounds would you like to lose in 2025? Do it the natural way with PhD Weight Loss, here to lead the charge to make America healthy again. Call PhD Weight Loss and schedule your consultation. 864-644-1900. That's 864-644-1900, or go to myphdweightloss.com. Continuing today's show, we knew when Joe Biden started issuing, or when he issued his son, Hunter Biden's pardon, and then started issuing other pardons, that this was going to lead to an endless number of requests for pardons. Former Trump attorney Michael Cohen has added his name to the list. He's making headlines for publicly urging President Joe Biden to grant him a presidential pardon. He says he's concerned about potential prosecution under another Donald Trump administration. Cohen served 3 years in prison for various federal crimes. He claims that Joe Biden has a moral obligation to protect critics of Trump, just as he pardoned his son Hunter Biden earlier this year. Cohen warned on MSNBC's The Weekend that Trump's prior actions indicate he will pursue retribution against perceived enemies if he is given the chance. He said everything that Trump said he intends to do, he actually intends to do, Cohen remarked, referencing the president-elect's track record. He argued that a pardon would protect him and other individuals on Trump's so-called enemies list. Why don't we just do a blanket pardon, Joe? Anybody who perceives themselves as a Trump enemy, just put your name on the list. Wow. Cohen contended that Biden's pardon of Hunter created a precedent, which I guess he has an argument there. He said, I believe that Joe Biden has the same responsibility to me that he had to his own son. When challenged by MSNBC host Simone Sanders, who noted the personal nature of Hunter Biden's pardon, Cohen retorted, "I'm somebody's son also." Cohen was convicted of tax evasion, campaign finance violations, and lying to Congress during his time as Trump's personal attorney. His imprisonment and subsequent testimony against Trump have made him a key figure in various legal cases against President-elect Donald Trump. Biden faced backlash, of course, from both parties for pardoning Hunter back in December after Hunter's high-profile legal battles and after Joe Biden had spent most of last year promising or saying he would never consider pardoning Hunter. The move has fueled speculation about preemptive pardons for other Trump opponents, including Liz Cheney, Dr. Anthony Fauci. Of course, some have said they don't want a pardon. Criticism of Cohen's request, some commentators have argued that Cohen's comparison to Hunter Biden is tenuous and fails to account for the unique familiar relationship involved in Hunter's pardon. In a prior interview, Mr. Cohen declared plans to leave the country if Trump were reelected, citing fears of retribution. He said, "I'm already working on a foreign passport." Well, maybe Joe Biden could help speed that up for him then. Get him a passport, let him leave the country. I'm okay with that. Are you? Cohen emphasized the need to take Trump's promises seriously, warning that Trump's administration would act decisively to pursue their critics. His pleas to add mounting pressure to Joe Biden to consider a preemptive pardon as his term comes to a close, the political implications, of course, of granting additional pardons, particularly controversial figures like Michael Cohen, have remained a topic of heated debate with both Republicans and Democrats. I think the Democrats are just as embarrassed by Joe Biden offering so many pardons and commutations for people, and we've heard some of the stories of the last round. I don't know that even Joe Biden will consider any additional. He came under such heat after pardoning people who, of course, were bad people. As the victims spoke out about him turning their child's killers loose, and there were many of them. As Biden's final weeks, this is his final week in office. Of course, all eyes will be on Joe Biden to see if, in fact, he stoops to a lower level. There's a moment that sparked quite the debate on yesterday's State of the Union. Speaking of Joe Biden, Jake Tapper kind of came unhinged about Joe Biden. So here's what prompted it. Joe Biden asserted that Vice President Kamala Harris could have beaten President-elect Donald Trump in the 2024 election. It's a crazy assertion. Biden did this on Friday. Tapper wasn't buying it, calling the statement nonsensical. So here's what happened. The buzz kind of began when Joe Biden told reporters on Friday that his decision to drop out of the 2024 race was about unifying the Democrat Party. But then he added this. He said, "I think Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump." Does he not know that she lost miserably? Here's exactly what he said.
Mr. President, do you regret your decision to run for re-election? Do you think that made it easier for your predecessor to now become your successor?
I don't think so. I think I would have beaten Trump, could have beaten Trump, and I think that Kamala could have beaten Trump, would have beaten Trump. It wasn't about, I thought it was important to unify the party. And when the party was worried about whether or not I was going to be able to move, I thought even though I thought I could win again, I thought it was better to unify the party. And it was the greatest honor in my life to be President of the United States, but I didn't want to be one who caused a party that wasn't unified to lose an election. And that's why I stepped aside, but I was confident she could win.
You know, Joe Biden will go to his grave thinking that he could have beaten Donald Trump. He's just not convinced that he would have lost just as badly as Kamala Harris did, maybe worse. This statement sent shockwaves through the media and political circles. Not the least because Harris had run against Trump. I mean, people, you could see people in the room thinking, Mr. President, she did run and she didn't beat him. How can you stand there and say, I think Kamala would have beaten Trump? She tried it. She spent $1.5 billion that we know of and didn't do it. Jake Tapper didn't mince words on CNN State of the Union, dismissing the claim again as nonsensical. Tapper pointed out the obvious. Harris did run against Trump in 2024 and was defeated. So why would Joe Biden suggest otherwise? Was this just a way to try to take some of the heat off of Kamala Harris? What in the world could Joe Biden have possibly meant by that? Text me, email me, joey@joeyhudson.com. The 126th session of the South Carolina General Assembly kicks off tomorrow with both houses of the South Carolina legislature back in Columbia. The Republican Party picked up additional seats in both the State House of Representatives and the South Carolina Senate. There are a lot of important issues that will be at the top of the list as legislators go back to work. And one group that is keeping a close eye on things is our friends at the Palmetto Promise Institute. Joining us today, Dr. Orrin Smith, a senior fellow with Palmetto Promise. Welcome, Dr. Smith. How are you, sir?
Hello there. Always good to talk to you, Joey.
It's always a pleasure. So you guys just recently published the Palmetto Freedom Agenda, which consists of what I would assume are some of the top priorities for this session. If you would, give us a quick overview of what those issues are, and then we'll take a little closer look at each of the priorities.
Yes, that sounds good. Well, the whole idea of a freedom agenda came about during COVID when we were first locked down. During the beginning there, we had more time to do research than we normally did. So we thought about a listing of what the top issues, the top items should be for the legislature to tackle when they came back, and that was 20 and 21. Then for 23, 24, we came back with another set, and we had some victories for 23, 24. So this summer and fall, we've been preparing for the new legislature to come back with the Freedom Agenda 25, 26. And this time, it's a list of 20 items that we think that the state of South Carolina, through its legislature, needs to pass to make us a more competitive state and a freer state.
As I mentioned, of course, we have a few more Republican votes in both the House and the South Carolina Senate. What does that mean to you guys, some of you who are working on conservative-oriented legislation? Is this going to allow us to maybe do some things that we haven't been able to accomplish in recent years?
I have to say that I am very optimistic. They say elections have consequences, and that is really true. I was up at the State House last week for a hearing on the school choice legislation, and it was the Education Committee, and the committees followed the same ratio of Democrats to Republicans as the chamber in general, and it was a room full of Republicans. I remember not that long ago when you went to a committee meeting, it was relatively even, Democrats and Republicans, and because of that, you weren't really sure how things were going to come out at the end of the day. Were they going to vote the good legislation out? Or were they going to let it sit? Were they going to refuse to advance bad legislation? And, you were counting noses in the room, hoping that you would have enough votes. I think we're to the point now, particularly on the Senate side, with those 4 flips from Democrat to Republican, and then adding, a few more from 4 years ago. I think we're to the point now where any Republican who is somewhat soft or overly moderate, or maybe used to be a Democrat and changed parties, those individuals are not crucial anymore to certain things like, shutting off debate, because the Senate is the deliberative body. So there's more debate. It's harder to shut down a filibuster. But now the Republican caucus, they can spot a few. Yeah. They can say, the moderate, the conservative Republicans, there's enough of those to shut down a filibuster and then get to a vote. So I predict it's going to be very, very transformative if the Republican leadership can keep everyone on the bus.
Yeah.
and not allow too much division to take place. We've seen that in Washington for sure, and I hope we don't get too far down that road in South Carolina so that we can get some of these agenda items done.
Sure. With us today, Dr. Orrin Smith with the Palmetto Promise Institute. For additional information, go to palmettopromise.org, and you can see a lot of the good work that this group has done. All right, so let's jump in and just give us, now you mentioned education. Education is on your list. You've got several initiatives that you want to see in education. Let's talk about those.
Absolutely. Palmetto Promise Institute really cut its teeth during our founding on education. I was one of the co-founders along with Senator Jim DeMint and Ellen Weaver, who is now the state superintendent of education. On the education front, the two leading items are both related to school choice or education freedom, depending on how you want to entitle it. But we believe that a tax-paying parent should be able to choose any public school for their child. When the funding formula was restructured a number of years ago, we found out exactly what it costs for public schools to educate a child by district. So it is our belief that if a public school student wants to attend a different public school from the one that they are assigned to by zip code, they should be allowed the freedom to do that. Then, of course, an even larger issue is the ongoing issue of private school choice. And that is a broadening of that to say that a parent should have the ability to choose any school, public or private, for their child. Unfortunately, the Supreme Court ruled that the existing Education Scholarship Trust Fund program was unconstitutional. So we are pushing back against that, calling for school choice writ large in 2025.
Yeah. And look, when you involve parents and you're talking about the education of their kids, things can get really tough at times, can't they? I mean, I've been in politics for a long, long time, but boy, people get passionate about education.
Well, that has certainly been beneficial for us because when the Supreme Court on September 11th, of all days to do it, September 11th, 2024, they said these kids that were already in their new private school that was paid for through this school choice program, that they were no longer allowed to stay in that school. Our phone started to ring. Our email box started to fill up with parents who said, we don't know what to do. We are at our wits' end. We've been told that our children who have been struggling in some other setting, they finally found the school that they loved and that they were going to be kicked out of it. So that created a movement of parents who have been reaching out to their legislators and saying, we've got to fix this and restore this school choice program ASAP.
All right, let's move on. Healthcare is part of your Palmetto Freedom Agenda. Talk with us about that.
Yes, one of our greatest victories was when we got rid of the Certificate of Need program, which was saying that you had to have a permission slip from government in order to open a hospital or whatever. This agenda is a revised agenda based on that success. And one thing we think we need to do is we need to make it easier to shop for health care. We call it the right to shop. Mm-hmm. There are so many providers of so many services, and the prices can be extremely widely different for a simple procedure depending on the facility that you go to. So we want to build that into our system. We also want to make it easier to have the ability to cross state lines when it comes to telehealth. So because the internet doesn't stop at the border of the state, we don't think that telehealth should stop at the border of the state. If there is a physician that is the best physician for you, they're willing to do a telehealth appointment, and that physician may be in another part of the country. We think that should be encouraged, so we're going to be working for legislation to do that.
Dr. Orrin Smith is with me today. We're talking about the Palmetto Promise Institute's Palmetto Freedom Agenda and a lot of issues on that as the legislature goes back into session this week. Free market and economic opportunities is one of the items. Talk with us about those initiatives.
Yes, this free market and economic opportunity agenda has been one of our staples as well. With it, we are saying, number one, we've got to do something about our tax system. Now, the state of South Carolina is among the best in the country in certain areas of taxes, but in certain other areas, we're among the worst. In fact, it's well known, I think, it's starting to get out there amongst the primary electorate for the Republicans, and then more broadly around the electorate, that South Carolina's state income tax, that individual income tax, is still the highest in the Southeast. Now, the legislature has trimmed it, but we are calling for a deeper cut in the state income tax. We're also calling for comprehensive tax reform. That is, across all types of taxes, property taxes, sales taxes, income taxes. And we've just released a new report that's available on our website with our total comprehensive tax agenda.
And that website is palmettopromise.org, palmettopromise.org. I also have links on my website, joeyhudson.com, for additional information too. And let me encourage you to go and to review these items. And we'll, of course, Dr. Smith, we'll stay in touch with you throughout the session, and you can give us updates along the way, because it's going to be an exciting and I hope a very productive session. These are all good items, and we'll have to have you back another day to talk about free and fair legal. I'm assuming part of that's going to be involving tort reform, which is very much needed in South Carolina, but we'll have to save that one for another day. Dr. Orrin Smith, it's always a pleasure. Appreciate what you guys do, and look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you so much. Enjoyed it as always, Joey.
Sure thing. Your comments are welcome on the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. That's 864-477-5639. Emails always welcome, joey@joeyhudson.com. Speaking of the Furman Ford text line, it's never been more important to support locally run businesses owned by people who actually live here in the upstate. Let me take a minute to talk with you about our friends at Furman Ford. If you're looking for a new vehicle, maybe a great pre-owned vehicle, one you can trust, or maybe you're looking to order that special vehicle. Either way, if you want a new one, a brand new one, or a pre-owned that you can trust, the folks at Furman Ford, they're there to help you. Their name is on the sign because their name is on the line, because every single transaction is important to them. Jim Furman, Matthew Furman. They do business the right way. When you stop by, when you give them a call, or maybe when you just send them a quick email, you're always going to have access to a member of the Furman Ford family. And by the way, they also offer great service, and you're not going to have to wait weeks and weeks to get it done. And you do not have had to purchase your vehicle at Furman Ford. Doesn't even have to be a Ford. They service all makes and models. Visit my friends at Furman Ford online at furmanford.com, furmanford.com. On the text line, Albert writes, does it open up Meta for some lawsuits now that Meta has admitted to censorship and deletion of selected user accounts in order to advance false narrative and a political agenda? Well, I don't know. I guess potentially people could sue them. I know there are a lot of people who have been banned, some banned for life, that probably want their case heard again. We'll see. It could potentially lead to some, but I've got a feeling that with Mark Zuckerberg's new attitude, he's going to go out of his way to avoid these. So if you have been banned or limited on Facebook in some way, and you've appealed and they never responded to you, appeal again. This would be a good time to do so. Kevin writes, with the wildfires currently affecting California, will FEMA provide greater support to California than it did in Asheville, North Carolina? Well, that's the bad part about this, of course. The people in western North Carolina are still hurting. They still need help. I just can't imagine what some of those folks did these past days as we had this winter storm in the southeast. And yes, all the news media is focusing on the wildfire now, and I'm afraid that this will hurt some of the fundraising and some of the focus on western North Carolina. But we can't let that happen. We need to keep our friends in western North Carolina top of mind and continue to help as we can. Texter, this is Jennifer. She says, love the Greenville County Council story. This is something I talked about last week about a new chairman of county council and some new members that were sworn in. She says, the new leadership and the anti-development movement, which is so out of control in upstate South Carolina now, just drive around. It's everywhere, she says. There's a lot to say about that, but I have a question that concerns me a little. Do you think that egos will bump into each other in the new White House administration, i.e. Ramaswamy and Musk. Well, when you put people together like that, particularly people like Vivek Ramaswamy and Elon Musk, these are two very successful guys, two guys who have big egos. You throw Donald Trump in on the mix, there'll be some disagreements, I can imagine. There'll be some heated conversations. But I believe they all have the same goal in mind, and that's just part of the process sometimes, getting to that solution. In case you missed it, Trump shared a spoof of his now viral conversation with former President Barack Obama during Jimmy Carter's funeral. You remember that last week? Did you see that reported? We talked about it a bit on Friday, I guess it was. The video added fake audio to their exchange, turning a moment of speculation into a comedy sketch that has different reactions across the political spectrum. So let me set the stage for you here. Last Thursday, some of the biggest names in American politics gathered at the National Cathedral in Washington to honor and remember the late President Jimmy Carter. Among them were Trump, Obama, the Clintons, and, of course, Vice President Kamala Harris. I think even Al Gore. I think I saw Al Gore in there, too. What caught everyone's attention, though, was a seemingly friendly and animated chat between Donald Trump and Barack Obama. You've probably seen some of the video of that. If you haven't, go back and find it. Just search for it. In a rare moment of public civility, if you will, the two were seen leaning in and exchanging words like they were just good old friends, old-time friends catching up, hadn't seen each other in a while. This, of course, has sparked a lot of speculation on what they were saying. What were they talking about? Where they were both kind of laughing, to the point that Kamala Harris even turned around at one point and gave them the eye. You know, it's kind of like, hey, will you guys shut up back there? This is inappropriate. We're at a funeral. Observers wondered, was this a meeting of the minds, possibly? A moment of mutual respect of two guys who've held the highest office in the world? Was this just polite small talk between two of America's most polarizing figures? Well, leave it to Trump to take a solemn moment and flip it on its head. Over the weekend, he posted a parody video to Truth Social and it started like this. Obama says, "I knew you'd win." Trump says, "Oh, really? Come on. Anyone could have beat her." Here's how it goes.
Well, Mr. President,
for a second time. Barack, very nice to see you.
congratulations. How you doing?
A lot better now.
Yeah, I bet. Knew you'd win.
Oh, really? Oh, come on. Anyone could beat her.
Kidding
She's
me?
just...
I was just as appalled. You know what happened? You just didn't want to leave.
I know.
Is what happened. I did what I could to help her. She was horrendous.
I know. You know what I realized? Hillary still hates me. So much.
Now, of course, it's better to see the video. That, of course, you just heard the audio. But you kind of get the gist because they did a great job of... You got the video of the real Donald Trump and Obama sitting there talking, and they've just inserted this audio as if they were talking to one another. And they did a great job because it looks realistic. The her that they're talking about, of course, the her is Vice President Kamala Harris, who, as we know, lost miserably to Trump in 2024, taking over the Democratic Party after Joe Biden dropped out. This fake audio... It even had Obama calling Harris horrendous and complaining that he did what he could do to try to help her. It's kind of like, I did what I could. She lost it on her own. And it didn't stop there. As Harris entered the funeral with her husband, the spoof had Trump and Obama making playful jabs behind her back. And just to kind of round things off, Hillary Clinton made a cameo in the clip too, appearing glum as Trump's dove voice quipped, "Hillary still hates me so much, she'll never forgive me." The internet, as you can imagine, went crazy, went wild. Trump supporters talked about the parody as vintage Trump, a mix of humor, trolling that's become his trademark. You got to know that Kamala saw this. She'll never admit it. She'll never say that she did. She won't acknowledge that. But you know she has because it's been all over the internet. Memes flooded social media with some calling it the funniest thing Trump's posted in years. Critics, however, those Democrats, they see it differently. Many felt that the video was inappropriate, given the somber setting of a funeral. Now, the funeral hadn't started yet. I mean, this was as people were arriving and finding their seats and sitting down when the two of these guys were talking so. Others called it just another example of Trump using humor to deflect from deeper political issues. Regardless of the reason, it was funny. And again, I'd love to know what Kamala Harris really thinks of it. We'll never know that. That's it for today's edition of Just the Truth. Thanks for joining me in the PhD Weight Loss Studios. To lose weight for the last time, visit myphdweightloss.com. If you haven't joined my mailing list yet, visit my website, joeyhudson.com. Click on the Connect with Joey button so that you can receive our emails and the most up-to-date news. Also, join me on my YouTube channel. Be sure and like, comment, and subscribe. Just search for Joey Hudson. As always, thanks for spending a few minutes of your day with me. Do me a favor and forward this episode to a few friends. Just click on the share button and send to your contacts. We need to build an army of conservatives to win our country back, and we can do that by continuing to share the truth with our friends and family. Keep those comments coming via the Furman Ford text line, 864-477-JOEY. Email to joey@joeyhudson.com, and I love your messages on the MyPillow message line. Again, that's 864-477-JOEY, 864-477-5639. Be sure and take advantage of the MyPillow special, just $14.88 on the standard MyPillows when you use promo code Joey. Order online at mypillow.com or call 800-893-4053. We're back again tomorrow and hope you'll plan to join us. Until then, remember, God's got this. He's still in control.